Okay. Yes, I'm alive again. I figured out the ready or not problem. So nice little uninstall. I'll reinstall it after. Not a big deal. Good old Slavjank video games, right? All right. Back to it. Alright, so now we gotta go all the way back. Finished Outer Dark? Very nice. I have to admit, it was a little frustrating to have to deal with the issues I had to deal with, but it is what it is. Well, I appreciate that, Apocalypsagon. Don't need to fight these guys, so just move on. Oopsie daisy. Alright. And that's that pizza. That gives me more health. Which is always nice, right? Have I ever read the Ravener novel? I have not. There's a lot of 40k books I have not read. The next thing on my listening list is Dark Imperium. Though I admittedly need to... Oh, I've already been here. I admittedly need to... listen to all, like, the stuff with the Fall of Cadia. Dark Imperium pretty much gives you the gist of the state of affairs of the galaxy. Yeah, that's kind of what I've gathered. From what I understand, though, there hasn't been any other like major developments in the or the last major developments within the lore was the Arcs of Omen books, which, you know, goes over, like, the Lion coming back and, Vastor the Archifane actually getting all of the Arcs. And apparently opening a way into the webway. Which, that's interesting. Fall of Cadio is stupid? I don't think so, to be honest with you, from an overall lore perspective. 40k needed to move forward. You can only do the same thing over and over again so many times to the point where it just gets old. What is going on? Like, this game was not stuttering this badly. Did I go back to the Human Enclave? I did. I did not mean to come here. Hey, Fizz, I might have missed it, dude. Like, you're being kind of an asshole tonight, dude. It's getting on my nerves. Please don't make me time you out for the rest of the evening. But it could get end time stuff, or you also could get other developments. I have a feeling that what 40k is likely going to do is they're likely going to start moving in a direction where they're bringing back the Primarchs. And a lot of the reason for that is that's going to sell minis. Because the fact is that, like, there hasn't been a, on the tabletop, from what I understand, like, you have Magnus on the tabletop. You have Mortarion on the tabletop. There was, like, no answer to that. But now you've got Gilliman in the line. I have a feeling that there's going to be more. And given that they're finally at a point where they're probably going to start breaking into the mainstream, which is something that Games Workshop has kind of wanted to do for a while now, I'm really interested to see where it's going to go. Like, I'm fully of the opinion that the Indomitus Crusade is the most interesting thing to happen in 40k in a long-ass time. Okay, I need to find my way to Kane's Palace. I'm not of the opinion that having the Primarchs loses the Grimdark appeal. Like, I don't agree with that. I think what you lose by having characters like the Lion and Gilliman and stuff like that start to come back and the Imperium start to change, what you lose is the theme of stagnation. But the thing is, you can only do the theme of stagnation for so long before it gets old. You know? What the fuck? Something's really going weird with Soul Reaver tonight. I think we're not going to be able to keep playing it, sadly. They pushed an update out for it now, and now it keeps crashing. Not to mention, if anything removed the mysteries of the Primarchs, it was the Horus Heresy books. Because now we know everything about them. And we even know where they are. But there has to be a point, because you got to think about it this way. For years, there's been this hint that something with the Imperium has to change or it's eventually going to collapse. Because it's true. I mean, hive cities live on a thread. You know, they're fighting a war on all fronts, so they're spread as thin as possible. So it's basically that the instant something goes wrong, everything falls apart, because that's the theme of just about any sort of a dynasty that deals with that, you know. So by having something come in to mix it up, I don't think you lose grim darkness at all, because I think what makes it grim and what makes it dark is basically how fucked up it is, which it still is that, you know, and it depends on how the stories are written as well. Because you can still have things improve, but still have things go wrong. I think that if anything has taught us that in regards to narrative construction, it's Berserk. You know, Berserk is possibly one of the best grim tales I think that we've ever had in regards to fiction, right? And there are things that improve, and then they start to improve and improve, and then something happens to keep it grim. You know, so what we're seeing right now is we're seeing things improve, but that doesn't mean that things can't slide backwards or there comes a complication in a different area. Because, like, think of it this way. Think if we get more of the Primarchs back. Because who's still alive? We know the Khan is somewhere in the Webway. We know that Leman Russ and Corvus Corax are somewhere in the Warp. And Vulcan is taking a nap somewhere. So we've got them, right? So that's 4 more Primarchs that you could bring in. And then, of course, on the Chaos side of things, we have Magnus, Mortarion, fucking Snake Boy, Fulgrim, Angron, who, by the way, like, we only just now got an answer to Angron and the Lion. But we've got those 4. Plus Perturabo is somewhere. And I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Oh, Altharius is somewhere out there as well. And they've hinted that Altharius is going to be getting a mini. So having it balance out, I'm all for. You know? But that doesn't mean that you can't have other things that go wrong. You know? And that's been a consistent thing. Like, what just happened with Arcs of Omen is a doomsday scenario. Because now, Chaos Undivided has access to the Webway. And the Eldar didn't know that it was going to happen. They had no fucking clue it was going to happen. So it's like, oh god, now what? And they haven't done anything with that since. So not to mention there's the whole thing with Caliban just returning, and it's a perversion of its former self. You know, like there's some weird, crazy, dark shit going on in that universe. And I'm not of the opinion that the Primarchs coming back is going to counterbalance the fact that half the universe is cut off from the other half of the universe because the Eye of Terror was ripped in half, was ripped asunder. There's a lot of potential there for stuff that you could do with it. And I'm really interested to see where it's going to go. But yeah, I don't agree with the whole idea of it losing like any sense of grimdark at all. Steve Shows It for $5 says, saw your See Destiny video, still found the reason behind Kigali's character assassination is beyond petty by the show writers. I don't even know the reason for it, to be honest with you. That's why I didn't go over it in the video. Like, I have never looked into the behind the scenes stuff for Seed Destiny. I've only heard like third or fourth hand stories about it. So all I know is it was bad. that's all I know. And it's like there's not really an excuse for it, you know? I don't think it's subtle as it used to be. You could have the setting be badass without Primarch Survivor or the Bad Ab War. I am familiar with the Bad Ab War. I have not read any of the books about it. But most of my familiarity with the Bad Ab War comes from just Tyberos, to be honest with you. But what I would like to see is stories that come from the worlds that are swallowed up by chaos and things like that. I think that there's a counterbalance that's needed. I also think that there's other grim shit that you could do with the other races as well. You know? I really want if there's one race especially where shit just needs to go wrong for, it's the goddamn Tau. Something terrible needs to happen to them. You know? Because I kind of feel like people they've gone light on them. You know? All they've got is thank you for another $4.99, Steve. He says, one writer thought Kigali Seiyu was sleeping with her husband, the director, and made Kigali a doormat in response. Really? I think I've heard that one. I think that they fought typhus recently. I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it, Apocalypsagon. But, yeah, right there. Danny is on my train of thought. A Tau civil war would be really interesting. I really want to see Farsight push back against the concept of the greater good. I want to see something happen to them that causes them to be awakened to the warp. You know, stuff like that would be really cool to see. Um, to be honest with you, even though I could see things going better for the Imperium, what I would be also interested to see is people push back on those who would possibly want to, um, use humanity for their own benefits. Like, here's an example of that. In the codex for the for not the Tyranids, for the Necrons, the Silent King is interested in a alliance or a ceasefire with Gilliman. If that were to happen, the Necron Empire would be divided immediately. Immediately. Because think of the other Necron lords and how they would react to that. That would be interesting. And then what happens if maybe the Silent King gets deposed? That I think would be really interesting to see. What if the Eldar start turning on the Yanid? Even though the Yanid are trying to manipulate humanity, because they effectively see that if they can get the eyes of humanity off of the Eldar, then focus on the same enemies, effectively manipulating them to achieve an end. You know. Do you want to hear stakes? There's a gene stealer cult on Terra. That's another one. That's another thing that would be really cool to see happen, and to see how that goes on. You know, and then there's the Emperor himself. Though his sons are coming back, he's not in good shape. Because they've talked about it. I think it was Belisarius Call even said that they don't know how much longer the Golden Throne's going to last. And they don't know how to fix it. Because even if you did, how the fuck do you get close enough to fix it? Because going in that room is like a psychic sandblasting. There is only one person, in my opinion, or two Primarchs that I'm of the opinion might be able to fix it. One of them is in Chaos, and that's Perturabo. Because for all intents and purposes, Rogel Dorn is dead. Of the two Primarchs, the two best craftsmen they have are Perturabo and Vulcan. There's some interesting stuff you could do there. Like, honestly, man, and you're free to everybody's free to disagree with me. I'm just speaking from a writer's perspective. When I look at the landscape of 40K as a playground, a sandbox for a writer, I think of all the stuff that I see there, and I look at it and I go, ooh, I could do some really interesting stuff with this. Because, ultimately speaking, because the universe is changing, it means that the direction that it goes can go in a lot of fun different ways. You know? When did Rogel Dorn die? It was sometime after the Heresy. The ship he was on got raided by Chaos Space Marines, and all that they found was his hand. Can I give you a 4 dummies summary of 40K? So Warhammer 40K is a space fantasy, for better or worse. It takes a lot of the factions from the Warhammer fantasy tabletop, or it takes some of them rather, and puts them 40,000 years into the future. So you've got your humans, you've got your elves, but they're called the Eldar, but they're space elves. Quite literally, they even look like elves. And you have orcs, but they work a little bit differently. But they're orcs. You have orcs in space. Instead of your little ratlings, the fucking, what are they called? I forget their name, but you know the ones I'm talking about. The little rat dudes, you have instead bugs, the Tyranids. So you have sort of like, you know, different fantasy sort of races with a sci-fi spin. And that's effectively what Warhammer 40k is. Because magic exists, they have mages, but they're called psychers. But what they effectively do is magical. Because what they tap into is a concept called the warp, which also exists in Warhammer Fantasy. And the realms of chaos and things along those lines. Like, demons exist, monsters exist, but they're just aliens on different worlds. It's basically a sci-fi spin on a fantasy setting. That's what 40k is. And it's a grimdark sort of a twist on that sort of thing. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun as a universe to get involved in. I really enjoy it. Like, the funny thing is like, for the longest time, my only exposure to 40k, I guess we're just going to do some Zatsu for the rest of this stream. I will show you how many Warhammer games I own. I have Bolt Gun, Dark Tide, Dawn of War. I didn't know I owned the first Dawn of War. Dawn of War 2, Mechanicus, Rogue Trader, Space Marine 2, and then I have End Times, Vermintide, and Vermintide 2. I own a bunch of 40k games. That's how I got into it, was through the video games. And that's actually where I would recommend starting. Play the first Space Marine video game. If you think the world is cool, you're going to like 40k. Admittedly, most of it revolves around the Imperium of Man anyway. And that didn't even include all of my 40k games. Like, I also have Battlefleet Gothic 2. Wonder if they're going to explore more into the Leagues of Votann. Yeah, I would imagine that they probably will add something to it. Because as of right now, all the people who like the Leagues of Votann, because there's just dwarves, all the people who like the Leagues of Votann have is Diggy Diggy Hole. You know? Though there is some lore about the Leagues that I've heard that is pretty fucking cool. The one thing that Games Workshop has a problem with is, as of right now, a lot of stuff that is like Xenos centric doesn't sell in regards to like books and external media. People are just more interested in humanity. And from my perspective, what I would love to do, like, scenario that I got to write for the Black Library. Long shot, but it could happen someday. I'm gonna try, to see if I can get in it. Admittedly, there are people that have written for the Black Library that have less experience than I do, so it's definitely a possibility. But let's say I wrote for the Black Library. You know, one thing I would absolutely do? I would just find ways to tie these things into the Space Marines. Honestly. Like, find a way to tie, like, we wanted to help develop the lore of the Leagues of Votann. Well, I will find a way to do a story that is a Space Marine story, but involves them. Same thing with the Tau, with the Ynnari. Because the fact of the matter is, the Ynnari are the most interesting thing to happen to the Eldar in a long time. That and, the Rogue Trader game. But I think it's because people resonate with humans. It's because they're more iconic. Well, yeah, it's the home team. You know, you root for the home team. And they're easily identifiable because they have kind of a heroic look to them. Like, let's bring up some art. Let's see here. Let me grab... I know I've got some Warhammer 40k wallpapers. Yeah, let's use this art from Jaime Martinez. So we have the Blood Angels here, right? Fighting, looks like Gene Stealers. Yeah. You can kind of tell who the good guys are just by their appearance. You know, you have the dudes that are on the box that are fighting these ugly looking, like, pimple headed fucking dudes in armor. And they've got cool looking armor, they've got cool guns. This motherfucker has a sword with a chainsaw on it. And these guys in the back have fucking angel wings? Well, it's Death Company plus Blood Angels. These are aggressors. And then the Sanguinary Guard. But yeah, these motherfuckers up front are all yelling, Horus! Where the fuck is Horus? I'm gonna get you, you son of a bitch! You know. Do I trust Henry Cavill to do Warhammer right? First impressions, yes. I think he has a passion for it, so. But anyway. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything here. Plus this guy's an ancient, I think. Or just a sergeant. But you can tell that, like, who the good guys are. You know, they have a very heroic look to them. Here's the Imperial Fist. They're a better example of it. They generally have lighter colors. The heraldry, the shields, the swords. They have a very knightly look to them, right? You can't tell who they're fighting here. They're just fighting something off screen. Ooh, it's a Ballistus Dreadnought. We get our Black Templars. Kind of a same thing. Can't tell who they're fighting. This looks like a hive world. So... But given the storms, I'm assuming chaos is off screen. But the Templars look like knights as well. You know, they're supposed to invoke the Templars from history, and they do that very well. Very, very well. Same with the Sally boys, my boys. God, their aggressors look so fucking cool, dude. I fucking love them. Even the salamanders, like, they look scary, like they're still very heroic looking, you know. Then we have the White Scars. Can't tell who they're fighting. Oh, they're fighting Gene Stealers too. You know, for White Scars box art, there's not enough bikes. There's like 2. Oh, God. Ugh. It's getting kind of cold in here. I'm going to have to throw on a sweater here in a minute. But like it's kind of easy to follow them because they just look heroic. They look cool, you know. And generally speaking, you're gonna want to follow whoever looks the coolest, you know. And the one thing with the Ultramarines, admittedly, they have a style to them that screams main character. You know, they wear blue and red, and they wear red, white, and blue. You know, primarily blue, but red, white, blue, and gold. So it's something that they pop whenever you see them. You know, they're very aesthetically pleasing to look at as a chapter. Though, admittedly, in my opinion, their best leader, their best captain is of like the third or fourth company. Which one does Uriel Ventus is he the captain of? Is he third company or fourth company? I can never remember. But yeah, they look heroic. You wouldn't know that by looking at them that fourth company. Thank you. You wouldn't know by looking at them that these are the guys that are just really good at paying their taxes on time. You know. I have a Vulcan background, don't I? Yeah. Though this is not Vulcan. This is Vulcan Histan. The Forge Father of the Salamanders. God. Salamanders have the dopest art, in my opinion. Like, you look at like the coolest fucking Warhammer art. Fucking the Salamanders have some of the best. I love these guys. Like, not just because they're good dudes, but they're their aesthetic is just fucking great. Space Marines have to pay taxes. Everybody in Imperium has to pay taxes, but it's the tithe, the Imperial tithe. There's been wars over it. That's the Bad Ab War. What it started out as. God, the Bad Ab War. Just having read the lore of it, I feel really, really bad for the Lamenters. Good lord. Used to be a noob chapter master until he fought alongside Dante the First War for Armageddon. I thought that was. I think you're thinking of. That's not Vulcan Histan. You're thinking of what is his name? Their current chapter master, who sadly doesn't even have a fucking mini. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I think it's Tushan. That's it. You're thinking of Tushan. Because Tushan had only been the chapter master for like 5 years at the War for Armageddon. He gained Dante's respect very easily. Plus, he slapped the shit out of a captain of the captain of the Marines Malevolent for bombing a bunch of civilians. I don't remember what Tushan. I think Tushan uses a Thunderhammer. Vulcan Histan uses a spear. Specifically, he uses Vulcan's old spear. Let me look at Tushan real quick, because it should say on the wiki. Um, and it should say... Yeah, he uses Deathfire, Vulcan's second hammer. I think. Either that or it's a sword. I don't remember. No, it's a power sword. That's right. Deathfire is a power sword. He has that, and he has Stormbearer, which is his thunder hammer. But yeah, he has a he'll usually carry that, one of those power weapons, in one hand, and then he uses, kind of has like an aggressor gauntlet on the other. It's something both him and Vulcan Histan have in common, because Vulcan Histan has Vulcan's old power fist that he wears, and that had a flamethrower on the end of it too. But yeah, here's an image of Tashawn. God, he is fucking cool looking. Ever watched videos about stormtroopers from Star Wars interacting with Space Marines? No, I have not. Oh, goodness. Is this done yet? No, it's not. 5 hours? Whatever. Ain't no Helbrecht? Helbrecht is a whole thing, though. Helbrecht is a... he's an interesting case. The Templars in general are an interesting case. Though, my whole thing with the Templars is they will... they're not gonna, like, ever match up to their dad. And I know that they're considered sons of Dorne, but I consider the Templars more to be the sons of Sigismund. You know, like, they don't carry, like, Sigismund's gene seed, but Sigismund is who set the standard for who they were going to be, you know, as a chapter. Which is kind of why I liked him, because Sigismund might be the most skilled space marine to ever live. I'm trying to think, is there anybody that might beat him? I can't really think of it. Because Sigismund... I don't remember who it was he fought during the... He fought a Primarch during the Siege of Terra. I don't remember if it was Fulgrim or if it was Perturabo. But either one is a lot. I want to say it was Perturabo, but I could be wrong. Was Sevatar? Well, no, he fought one of the Primarchs. No, was it Alfarius that he fought? Because whoever it was he fought, Dorn ended up killing. I want to say it was I want to say it might have been Alfarius. It was Sevatar who fought 3 days to a draw. That's a different occurrence. Because he fought one of the Primarchs and got Pips, like, tried to fight him, but ended up, like, losing bad. Because it's a Primarch, you know. But the fact that he fought him as long as he did. He fought Fulgrim. Okay, thank you. Because Dorn fought more than one Primarch during the Siege of Terra. And then if I remember right, during the siege, I think the Khan actually cut the head off of Mortarion. But by that point, Mortarion was already a demon, so he just respawns later. One little detail I thought was really cool with in where I'm at with all the stuff with like the Plague War and stuff, Dark Imperium, that they've actually had to set up like whole med centers for guardsmen and Astartes fighting against the Death Guard, and then even if whether they win or lose, they have to come back and get like spend time in the hospital just because of the effects of being around the Death Guard. Like, that's, oof, man. I will say, reading that in the book, like, definitely gives you this feeling of, like, just how much fighting the Death Guard can take out of you. Really makes him feel like a big threat. Which they kind of need it, because the problem with how do you burn down a garden of Nurgle? That's absurd. Well, the Emperor doing it kind of makes sense because it's the Emperor. You know, like the Emperor is like, I'm of the opinion might end up being ascending to godhood at some point. But he's the Emperor. You know, he's just that fucking powerful now. Because now that the warp is everywhere, the Chaos Gods got a bit stronger, but so did he. So, or at least his psychic presence did. The Emperor doing it kind of makes sense because of how absurdly powerful he is. The one person it doesn't make sense doing is fucking Kaldor Drago. That was dumb. That I'm not a fan of. Like, what the fuck? Because by all rights and anything, Kaldor Drago's just a dude. Or like, he's just a space marine. He might be a Grey Knight, but the Grey Knights aren't that fucking powerful. Like, come the fuck on. That's a bit much. Have you ever eaten a tangerine? Tyranids fought the Death Guard and won, but Tyranids lost the planet, though all the virus is released in the atmosphere. It sounds about right. That is one thing I like about the fiction is like there's so many instances of we're losing this planet, but we're gonna make sure you can't get it either. Like there's a mission in, I don't know how many of you guys have been playing Space Marine 2. There's a mission in the PvE that you fight on a world where the Tyranids have already set up the capillary towers, and all you're basically doing is just trying to destroy those towers and the Biotitans guarding them to just fuck the Tyranids out of a meal. Like, the planet's dust. It's gonna die. But, at the very least, we can choke the Tyranids while we're at it. You know. Not sure if the Emperor is the kind of guy who saw himself as the end all be all. He's the kind of guy that would give humanity the strength to prosper on their own. That's the one thing that makes it interesting to me. Is in a weird way, what the Eye of Terror opening could do is it might let him be more places at once. You know, that might be why he was able to, like when Gilliman visited him at the throne, he was scatterbrained. He couldn't focus for shit. But when Gilliman was in the fight with Mortarion, the Emperor, that whatever facet of the Emperor was there at that moment, he was able to focus at that moment because I don't know, like it's a weird. My thought process isn't completely set on it yet, but for some reason in my brain, it makes sense that the further out you go, the more his influence could be felt because of because where his mind mostly is actually in the warp, guiding things, as opposed to, you know, in like one spot. It's sort of like it's sort of like trying to get water from the front of a fire hose than it is at the end of the spray. Like, you know how guys like it's dissipated out. It's easier to gather at that particular moment, you know. I'm probably not wording it that well. I haven't thought that much about it, admittedly. But that's the interesting thing about the Emperor to me, though. The man who did not want to be a god despises the concept of gods, and never wants to be worshipped as a god, is effectively becoming one. It's an irony of his existence, and that's what I like about it. You know, I have fought this so much that I end up taking the place of the gods that I sought so hard to destroy. At least in regards to humanity. Not to mention, there's also the possibility that the only reason that one of his sons is alive and has started this whole fucking process is because of the elven god of death. That's interesting to me. That's intriguing. And yeah, that's the tragedy of it too. That's what I love. That's what I love about it, man. There's a lot of layers, a lot of fun layers to interact with. It makes my brain all tingly. It's a fun universe, you know. A lot of fun. It is 7:30. Let me have a look around real quick for a couple of things. Don't recommend channel. Lolly has not set up his stream yet. So still got some time then. Warhammer is a lot like Halo. Everyone would disagree. Come on, factions are there one for one. Not really. Halo doesn't have a answer for chaos. And like the Tau are the closest thing I think to the Covenant, but they act very differently. They wage war very differently too. Though Spartans and Space Marines, Adeptus Astartes do have a lot of similarities. Though the Adeptus Astartes are less cybernetic than the Spartans, than the Spartan 2s anyway. Because Spartan 3s, I think, are just in powered armor. So that's a little different. Are the Tau communist? That's the meme. It's not really communism. There's no Zibavzinish or anything like that. But like they believe in the greater good and, you know, right side of history and shit like that. A lot of communist talking points. So that's why they get called the space commies. But yeah, the Tau don't like call people comrade and stuff like that. But there's definitely like some communist undertones to them. Um, and how they kind of want to assimilate everything into their way of thinking and their way of doing things. So yeah. But there's other systems to them as well. Most Spartan 3s are meant to be expendable. That's kind of how I figured. If you're wondering why I threw this on, my elbow's hurting. Thing is, unlike the Imperium, the Tau are willing to adapt and learn. See, and that's kind of why I'm very happy that what they've been putting in with the Tau is making them naive. Because I'm really of the opinion that like that's a smart thing to have in there for them, because there really wasn't a really naive faction until then, and that I think is a good weakness to have, because there's a lot of things in the universe you cannot be fucking naive about, you know. Hey Terror, how's it going, dude? Do I have any hopeful advice? Feeling a bit down at the moment. Um, if there is one thing that I would say that makes me happy about living, it is that the one thing that is constant is change. It's the one thing you can rely on, so that things will change. And they always change in the way that and the best way to live is to just accept it. Things aren't always going to be the same way, but it can't, you know, the best thing, you know, the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that you still have control over you, and if you're smart enough and you're wise enough, you're willing to admit that you need to always be learning, you'll adapt to it pretty easily. I think the one thing that keeps me going every day is I always have a purpose. There's always something to do, you know. And that is, I think that any time that you have given yourself something to work on and something to strive for, there's always a hope for the next day, you know. But it's something that you give yourself. I'm not of the opinion that I think anybody else can really give it to you. But then again, I'm also the opinion that it's best to be your own master in a lot of ways. Gonna be the guy who says a Spartan 2 could beat a Space Marine if your average Spartan can kill a hunter who are like 12 feet tall and travel in pairs. Oh, Adeptus Astartes could kill things bigger than that. Well, thank you, Radio End Times. I hope so too. I'm trying to think hopeful stuff. But yeah, I think that the one thing that also keeps me going when things get rough is the one thing that's always true about bad times is they end. They always do. They're never permanent. Eventually things will get better. Can a soul achieve anything so long as they take charge of their own fate? I think people who don't even take charge of their lives can achieve things. I'm of the opinion that ultimately people won't be properly satisfied unless they work towards their goals. You know? I know that I spent a good number of years kind of drifting in life because I didn't really have like a set thing that I wanted. And because I was in that sort of mentality, when I had a big opportunity in front of me, I blew it. So I think it's good to have that sense of purpose. Or at least a sense of direction. Valhalla Erickson for $2 says expectations regarding the new Superman film. The trailer looked good. The only thing I am expecting is a fun story. And it seems to me like what James Gunn wants to do is just give a classic Superman story. Which, 2 thumbs up if that's what you're looking to do. Now, will he succeed? We will have to see. But the fact that that's what he wants to do is a good start. By going over Char's deleted affair, yes. That is a big part of the first episode of the Grips War video. Which I'm probably going to write some more of that tonight. The way it works is that Grips War Part 1 is everything that leads up to the Grips War. So and a lot of that is Char's deleted affair, because where Zeon is at the time gives you an idea of why Operation Stardust happens. The fact is that Zeon, after the 1-year war, is pretty much split into 2 factions. You have those who are softer, I guess you could say. They don't really want another war. They just want to lick their wounds and heal. And then see what they can do to possibly gain independence at some point. And then you have the hardliners, who want to go straight into another war with the Federation. Because the fact of the matter is that the Federation is, they're hunting Zeon. They're looking to take out any militarized remnants of them. When in reality, the problem is that, as long as they're staying in their own territory, the Federation's not looking for them. So that's a big factor in it, because the hardliners are a big problem. Any tips on working at late night? I've been so tired. Adjust your sleep schedule, first and foremost. The second thing that you'll get used to is the hump. There's a point at night where you've been awake for a while, where because it's so dark, your body just kind of wants to sleep. And what I always did around that time, that's usually when I would have my lunch break. And then I would have something caffeinated. So that way I've got, food in my system and caffeine to kind of jumpstart the engine. The second thing I would advise doing is stretching around that time. Stretch everything out. Arms, legs, torso, all of it. Get good and stretched out. Get your blood pumping, because that will help you stay awake as well. That's what I would say. Because that's what I did whenever I worked third shift, is I would eat, and I would stretch, and I would walk around. Because I worked security, so I was doing patrols. So the walking around part was easy. It was everything else that was tough. So I feel like taking a hiatus from chasing your dream is okay if you have other things to do. I think that the best way to treat it is to put things on the back burner. Meaning, one example I would give is, I took, after Gamergate, when I first started to kind of do YouTube, I wasn't really taking it seriously, around 2016, which, God, it's 8 years. When I started doing that, I put writing on the back burner, journalistic work and stuff like that on the back burner to focus on my day job. But I still did it, and I still considered the YouTube stuff at the time that I was doing was still effectively journalistic work. So yeah, I say put it on the back burner. Don't give up on it. Just put it on the back burner. Have it be something that you do when you can find time. But don't let it be the full focus. Because at the end of the day, what your main focus should be is what brings home the bacon, And if you're not focusing on what brings home the bacon, you will suffer, Because I've had a couple of jobs that I've had where I wasn't focused on the job. I was focused on other stuff that didn't bring home the bacon, and I fucked up royally, Because the other stuff I was doing was just, I knew wasn't going to go anywhere. I was just doing it because it's what I wanted to do. It was a very stubborn way of looking at things. It was fucking stupid. And I paid for it. Rightfully so. Alright, how's this ready or not shit coming along? It's about halfway done. But I'm also thinking that whatever update got done on Soul Reaver fucked it up. Because, those hard crashes I haven't heard about anybody having until very recently. Ugh, fuck. Looking forward to seeing your thoughts on Gundam Wing G Unit. Yeah, at some point I'm going to review it. Because the thing with the Wing series is that if I had tried to fit G Unit in it, it would have been each episode would have been over 2 hours long, and I'm not the one editing those. That's Shirt Dude. And though he does work for me, he works part-time. I'm not, he's not making enough money from me to justify putting it above everything else. And I would be actually kind of worried if he did, to be truthful with you. So I don't want to put him in scenarios where he's constantly got to edit a video that is like an hour and a half long. That's why whenever I'm doing the videos of like the deep dives, it's why I'll do, 1 Year War Part 1, and then I'll do a bunch of other videos, and then I'll do 1 Year War Part 2. It's to give him a break. I'm still going to be putting out content, but I'm not putting him in a position where he's got to do all this other extra shit, So. Oh. Neck is good and stiff. Gotta love it. Think media has deteriorated because there's no middle class in America anymore? There's a middle class in America. That's internet bullshit. There's definitely a middle class. And not all industry is deteriorated either. That's just not true. Like that's some like you gotta go outside and touch the grass a little bit. There's definitely a middle class. And industry hasn't deteriorated that much. The problem that we have in the media, because the media, the problems in the media are problems in the media. Why do I feel that way? Because, like, I leave my apartment. Like, I know I have friends that are middle class. Like I have people that I know that are middle class, and there's still variations on the middle class. Like it's something that I interact with on a regular basis. And I have been all over the only thing I haven't been is like upper class. There's still a middle class. Like I have relatives that are middle class and levels of middle class. It's very much still there. So that's the issues in the media have nothing to do with like economic class. The problems that we have in the media right now come from a couple of different. Well, it's not. I don't hope that I'm right. I see it on a regular basis. It is what is outside of the internet. Problem is the internet makes every single problem seem like it's 10 times worse than it is, which is just not true. Like if you believe everything you say on the internet, and in the next 5 minutes there's civil war now. How many times have we heard there's gonna be a civil war over the last few years? How long have we heard that Kathleen Kennedy's getting fired? And all this other shit. Like it doesn't happen. It's just people bloviating on the internet. But no, the problem with media and why media has deteriorated is because a lot of people in the media backed the wrong horse. They backed ideology over the things that make them money. It seems to work well for Tim Pool. It's clickbait. It's clickbait. It's sort of like I've been out of the job long enough, like my NDAs have long since expired, so I can say this. I used to work for Sportskeeda. And one thing that Sportskeeda, man, is excellent at is clickbait titles. Because like almost every article, like in the wrestling section, starts with former WWE champion or former X champion or former WCW champion or so on and so forth. And you click it wondering, now what champion said this? And it's like former WCW television champion Disco Inferno. It's like, oh, okay. So it's not like John Cena said this shit, But they're good at it, It's clickbait, It's there to get you clicking, but it's not necessarily a reflection of reality. But when it comes right down to it, like the problem is that a lot of media, from the press to the actual entertainment world, backed the wrong horse in regards to backing ideology over money making. Not really realizing that the problem that they're doing is they're effectively sacrificing the things that sell. You know, I'm not the biggest Asmongold fan. I think that, like, sometimes he's very wrong on things, like he was with Silent Hill 2's remake. But sometimes he gets things right. And one thing that he said that was recent that was true is that, you know, I don't want to back or put my money towards a video game where they're not can I answer the last question? But like throwing 40 at me, man. Let me yap. Damn it. But you're let's see here. So back on the original question. That's the one I want to answer. Like in backing the wrong horse, like, or the point that Asmon had made was that he doesn't want to buy a video game where they're not taking the designs of the characters seriously. Like, they're not trying to make characters look good, you know? They're not trying to they're not putting on their Sunday best, is a good way to put it, you know? So why do I want to take this seriously if you're just throwing designs that look like your aunt at fucking Thanksgiving, but it's a first-person shooter? No offense to my aunt, but I don't want to play a video game where I play as my aunt. I want to play a video game as a hero. You know, I want to be the hero. I want that sort of an experience. You know, like I don't want to be just Tom, Dick, and Jane. I want to be, you know, somebody going on an epic adventure, because that's what escapism is. You know, if there's going to be a story about somebody's aunt just being a wine aunt, it's probably going to be like a rom-com or something. You know, and it's not necessarily what somebody's going to want to, you know, invest their time and money in regards to video games. So, or in regards to a lot of other things. So by pushing ideology over actual, like, good storytelling, the things that resonate with people, then what you end up with is people just stop buying it. They'll invest their money into their places. And there will be people out there that are more than willing to snatch it up. That's why we've seen the rise of Tencent, is because Tencent, while giving money to communist China, mind you, has managed to grab certain gaps in what people are looking for. You know, the commies came in and basically said, oh, well, we have the money we can throw to develop cheap gotcha Coomer games. And they did it and made money hand over fist. You know? So they've effectively created a gap in the market. You know, there's a lot of people that went into the games industry that were convinced, because of their ideology, that making attractive females is a bad idea, or things along those lines. It's like, well, somebody else is going to come in and fill the gap. You know? Stop making fun of my gotcha? Never. As long as the commies have a stake in it, I'm going to make fun of it. But there's always going to be somebody who's willing to fill the gap. There's always going to be somebody who's going to come along and be like, well, we're going to do things true to form. You know, we're going to make things look good, because that's what we want. We want things to look good, and we want to make money. It's sort of like why I think that people really liked and resonated with the Final Fantasy VII remake. Is they didn't fuck around with the design really that much, and the things that they did do, like there's only one thing that people tarted out about it was Tifa's design, and people ended up buying it anyway. it's it's like, oh no, she's wearing thigh highs and a sports bra. How dare she? You know, but it ended up being successful, and people dug it. Like especially people who were already fans of Final Fantasy VII. It's just got a very good design to it. What's another good example of it? I think it's part of the reason that manga has done so well in comparison to comics, is that on the whole, aesthetically speaking, because you're getting artists coming in that are very talented at what they do, or they're very good at what they do. Like people want to look at those particular pretty pictures, you know. What do I want to look at Batgirl? Who this particular artist that you've got drawing this iteration of Batgirl is like makes it look like she got hit with a frying pan, or do I want to look at, I don't know, Makima? The choice is obvious, you know. You gotta, you gotta realize that aesthetics matter. I'm not even like sex sells is true, but I don't even think that you need to do like, I don't think every woman needs to be walking around in a thong and pasties for people to look at it. It's just make the design good, make it look clean, make women look like women, make men look like men, give them an aesthetic, give them a theme, give them something that makes them stand out to you aside from they're ugly, you know. Mm. Apocalypsagon puts it well together. Sincerity. I want this to look good. I want it to be appealing to the eye. Just like FF7 because of what they said about CyberConnect. Well, from what I can understand, they're not very pleased with CyberConnect because CyberConnect kind of fumbled the ball, according to what, the guys behind the remake wanted them to do, and then they had to rebuild a lot of shit that CyberConnect kind of fucked up. I can kind of understand the ire. And I understand if you like CyberConnect stuff, like I'm not shaming you for it, but I can see the perspective. Being somebody who has like worked with people before and contracted them to do things, and then what got turned into me was not what I was looking for and not up to my specifications, you've got every right to be mad as the contractor. But that's just my perspective, just as somebody who's been on somebody who's had his shoe on the other foot, But yeah, having aesthetic works. It matters. It's something that gets people to look at it and they want to, they want to see. You're effectively catching their eye. Do I have a good screenshot here of something cool? Da, 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 da. Not particularly. Damn. Okay, I need to go use the restroom real quick. I will be back in just a moment. I'm back. Sorry about that. See, guys, in making that Caldor Drago reference, now I have an orange. Ah! I had an orange. Ugh. Okay. My favorite snack is fruit. One thing that I have told myself is that I plan on dieting once the new year comes around. And I'm starting to make small changes. I'll give an example of an asshole character that is likable. A character that's good-hearted, and both are well written. Spider-Man and Venom. It's probably the best examples off the top of my head. Yeah, Caldor Drago even carved the name of his old chapter master into Mortarian's heart. Yeah, that was stupid. That's Matt Ward for you. I'm of the opinion the only way you could make Caldor Drago kind of make sense is if, like, he's actually the second prime, or the second Primarch. The second or the 11th. And he was just hidden, like, and, like, mind wiped or something. That is one thing I find funny, though, is, like, the two characters that get most savagely made fun of in Emperor TTS are Caldor Drago and Cato Sicarius, both of which are Matt Ward characters. Gave you a new appreciation for Venom. I even bought Lethal Protector. Dude, Lethal Protector is so good. If you're hearing peeling, it's this. I have a system for these. Make it as clean as possible. Thoughts on the rumors of Sanguinius returning to life? I have a feeling that they're gonna do it through some like warp bullshit about with the Sanguinator. I have a feeling it'll happen. That they might do it. It'd be interesting to see if they do. Like some warp shenanigans with Dante and the Sanguinator, and like combining that and like Sanguinius's soul from inside the warp to rebirth him. Which I don't want them to do. But I could see it happening. God damn it. It's the thing about being a writer. I can think of how to do it. You know? I can figure out ways to do it. I have a feeling that I could probably do it in a way that a good chunk of people could find it compelling, but there would be people who would be like, you're pulling this out of your ass, and I'd be like, I paid to! That's the point! That's the job, man. Come on. Thoughts on the new Superman trailer? I've been asked that, I want to say at least 3 times so far, but I'm still fine with answering it. I really dug it. I'm pretty stoked. I'm bummed out that Henry Cavill isn't going to be Superman anytime soon. But at the same time, Henry's getting the one thing I think in entertainment he has always wanted, and it's to be at the charge of a Warhammer 40K series. So I'm stoked for what he gets to do now. You know. But yeah, the two Primarchs I want back most are Corvus and Vulcan. Though I think the one that they will probably bring back before those two is Russ. Just because the Space Wolves are stupid popular. Because the thing with Russ, he could just show up and it would make sense. Because he just went into the warp and said, I'll be back when I'm most needed. And you could literally just have him pop out of the warp and it'd be like he was there for 10 minutes. But in reality, it was 10,000 years because the warp is fucked up. Sad some people are bashing the trailer because they're Snyder fanboys and want Henry back. Snyder fanboys are going to have to at some point realize that dude fumbled the bag. Because he really did. Henry being cast as Superman was great casting. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was perfect casting. But things just didn't work out. It happens. Don't knock your Wolf. I like Russ. I'm not knocking him. Russ is a good boy too. You know? He's a good dude. If you gave me a book of Corvus, Vulcan, and Russ just doing cool stuff together, I'd read it. Because those dudes they're awesome. And not to mention, when it came to the Thousand Sons, I'm with the Wolves on that one. Fuck Magnus. Russ took a detour to get a six-pack for the boys and got incredibly lost along the way. Basically, you could just do that. And it would make sense. The one thing I always find funny about Russ is him and the lion and their consistent bickering with each other. Because it's literally a cat and a dog. But yeah, the one thing that I really like about Russ, he's a lot more civilized and he's a lot more kind than he lets on. As a warrior, he is brutal. He is he can be vicious. But his sons are a reflection of him. And the fact that they were willing to go to war with the Grey Knights over the safety of civilians, it speaks volumes. You know, he was the Emperor's executioner. But the thing is that an executioner kills one guy. That's the job. The Emperor tells me to go kill Magnus. I'm going to go fucking kill Magnus. I'll be right back. I'm there to kill one dude. He wasn't looking to wipe out all of Prospero. But Magnus and the Thousand Sons had to go. They were a threat. You know, at least as far as he was concerned. He wasn't going to, like, kill all the civilians or some bullshit. That wasn't his goal. You know, his goal was, I have to kill Magnus and his boys. But if Leman Russ had been alive for Armageddon, and the Grey Knights killing those civilians, Greymane was light, in my opinion, on the Grey Knights. If Russ was still alive, Russ would have taken his flagship, and he would have warped right at the headquarters of the Inquisition of the Ordo Malleus. He would have gone into their offices, killed the head of the Ordo Malleus, and then killed the Grandmaster of the Grey Knights. Just for the insult. And he would have been right. That's what I love about Russ, man. Yeah, he almost killed Horus, too. Russ is a beast. Like, I can't think of the Primarchs, who beat the most other Primarchs. You know? Vulcan beat the piss out of Kurz twice in one fight, but we'll just call that one. And then he beat Magnus twice. But those were two different fights. The Kurz fight was one long fight. Like he beat the fuck out of Kurz. Kurz was in full armor. Vulcan was practically naked, and he beat the piss out of him. And then Russ beat Magnus, and then he beat Horus, Almost killed him. I don't remember who else he fought. Dorn fought Fulgrim and beat him. Trying to think of who else. Fulgrim has defeated 2. He killed Ferrus Manus, which that's a tough fight to win. So he killed Ferrus Manus, and then he defeated. Oh, and Dorn also killed Alpharius or Omegon. We don't really know which yet. Who else? But Fulgrim beat Ferrus Manus in a fight, and he also beat Guilliman in a fight. And he effectively killed Guilliman. So you can't sleep on Fulgrim. He's tough. Angron has also beaten Guilliman. But Angron also has taken a lot of L's. Sanguinius beat him pretty bad. And I think he was a demon when Sanguinius beat him. Because for as angry as Angron is, Sanguinius could be just as scary when he was pissed. Because if I remember right, he actually ripped the iron nails out of his head. Which is that's like ripping out brain tissue. Let's see here. I'm trying to remember who else there was. Oh, wait, Angron also lost to the Lion recently. Which kind of, it makes sense, because the Lion has 2 advantages over Angron. The first advantage he has is he's admittedly more skilled. And honestly, I can't think of a Primarch that has more swordsmanship skill than the Lion. The Lion is just a very skilled guy. He's always training. And on top of that, he had the Shield of the Emperor to help him as well. So that's an advantage he has over Angron, is skill. He's just much more skilled in combat than Angron is. I would argue that he might be the most skilled with a blade. Him and Fulgrim might be the best swordsman of the Primarchs. Because the thing with the Lion is, he's always training. He's always sparring. He's always trying to get better. He was always like that. He understood that you can't stay stagnant. Not to mention, he didn't have, the Lion's tough. Very tough guy. Like all Primarchs. But he doesn't have, the physical gifts of Vulcan. If Vulcan comes back and Vulcan beat Angron with just his fucking hammer, I could see it. Because Vulcan's huge. The Vulcan is a monster of a man. He is 10 feet tall. I could, if he were to beat Angron physically, I could see it. You could justify it, in my opinion. Just because it's Vulcan. The only Primarch stronger than him was Ferrus Manus. And they were bash bros. They were the hammer bro. They were super hammer bros. Because if Ferrus Manus was still alive and he were to beat the piss out of Angron, I could see it. Because he's huge and he's stupidly strong. So, but the Lion doesn't have those physical gifts. You know, but he's got skill. And skill helps. I think that's part of the reason as to why Dorn was able to beat either Alpharius or Omegon, whoever he killed. Because he's just that... Dorn's very good. Very skilled guy. Dorn's another guy that, like, never rested on his laurels. He was practical. He understood where things sat. If I'm not good enough, I need to become better. It's just what I'm going to do. You know? That's the one thing I like about Dorn. As a character. He's just like, do you think you could do this? Yes. Are you sure you can? Do you think you can do this? No. Think you could possibly get good enough to do it? Maybe. I will try. Because I am Dorn. It's simple. He's kind of a bread sandwich. But it works. You know, because you can kind of respect it. He's very blue collar. That's the one thing I like about him and Perturabo. And what I like about the difference between the two of them is Rogel Dorn has the better attitude of the two of them. Like, Rogel, can you do this? Yes, I will do it. Perturabo, can you do this? Fine. That's Perturabo's attitude. Perturabo's petulant. Because his sister, I think in his book puts it well, is like, you have an iron will. And you are, when you set your mind to anything, you're unstoppable. But the problem is that you have the worst fucking attitude about all of it. And you don't allow yourself to take any joy in anything, nor do you put yourself in a position to where you're willing to actually stand up for something, except for yourself. You're a pig-headed fucking man-child. You know, Perturabo is like one of those dudes where he's an asshole, but you have to respect him. But he's an asshole. You know, he's probably my favorite of the traitors. Is because if there is one thing about Perturabo, is you don't have to like his attitude, you have to respect what he can get done. And the weird thing is, one thing I always liked about Perturabo as well, is that he also would be the same way with his brothers. In the sense that if he respected you, you knew it. And he would not, you know, he wouldn't fuck around about it. Like, when he broke that mechanical dog titan that he and Vulcan made together, he liked that thing. You know, and he had broken it once, and he's like, I can't fix it to the way that Vulcan had it. Because he would just flat out admit Vulcan's a better smith. Though they're both builders, but like when it comes to smithing things, like Perturabo was like, you know, like you basically telling Vulcan, like, you have no idea how brilliant Vulcan is, dude. And he was just getting so annoyed that he just smashed it over his fucking head. Because he had a lot of respect for Vulcan's skills. He had a lot of respect for any of the skills of his brothers. He just didn't necessarily like them. You know, he liked Ferrus Manus as well. You know, because Ferrus as well, like, Ferrus Manus and Vulcan, he had a lot of respect for, because they all kind of had that. If there was like 4 builder bros of the Primarchs, it's Vulcan, Ferrus, Dorn, and Perturabo. Those guys were like, you need something built? They were like Bob the Builder of Primarchs. Like, can you fix it? Yes, we can. What about you, Perturabo? Yeah, I can. You know? Yeah, Perturabo does have that curse problem with him, but it's just one of those things where, isn't one of the traitor Primarchs trying to return to the light? The Emperor told Mortarion that he could be redeemed while he was burning the garden of Nurgle. He said that Fulgrim could be redeemed. My sense is he probably feels that way about all of his sons. I am of the opinion that if there is any of them that, given the opportunity, might turn around, it might be Perturabo. Because if there is one thing that is true about Perturabo, he is not stupid. If he saw an opportunity to get out of the shit situation he is in right now, he might take it. You know? Yeah, excuse me. Would the Salamanders and the Sisters of Battle get along? They tend to more often than not, but though they have their conflicts. You should watch Pariah Nexus or something like that. Oh, good crack of the neck. I need to do a thing. Need to log into my business email real quick. Okay. I've still got that set. Good. But yeah, generally speaking, the Sisters of Battle are just as much like, because there's a book that I read where, like, let me look it up real quick. It's in my Audible library. It's a novella. Excuse me. It's a novella I just read or listened to. Fireborn by Nick Kine. Actually has the sisters being reinforced by First Company Salamander Terminators. Didn't the imps say Gilliman only saw him and his brothers as weapons and not as sons? Kind of. The sequence is weird because the Emperor was kind of all over the place. And there's, because he visited him at Terra and was just getting scattered thoughts from the Emperor. So yeah. Because at the same time, the Emperor has appeared and spoken to everyone kind of differently. Because it was a little different when he spoke to Mortarion. It was a little bit different when he spoke to Titus in the Space Marine, telling him just awaken son of Gilliman, meaning that the Emperor has his eyes on Titus. So, I mean, Titus is stupid popular as a character. The guy you could consider Titus to be the face of 40K right now. So like him, the Emperor looking on him with favor is like, duh. So the answer is kind of, but not really. Yeah, like Apocalypsagon says. But anyway. So it's sort of interesting because, like, the way the Emperor also talked to his sons, like, during the heresy, it depended on who he was talking to. He clearly had favorites. The biggest favorite obviously being Horus. The fuck. But yeah, he spoke to Titus differently. Spoke to the lion differently in a dream. So. He's not going to be running until 10. Okay, well, that's like 9 o'clock my time, so it's about another half hour. So. But yeah, the next thing I've got on my reading list is Dark Imperium Book 1. But yeah, I really liked Vulcan's Shield. I'm weird. I don't mind Nick Kine's writing. I think the dude's pretty good. Not to mention, in my opinion, like you kind of have to give it up to Nick Kine for one particular thing. Nick Kine turned Kato Sicarius from a Gary Stu into an actual character. Who saw that coming on your Warhammer bingo card? You know? Though he basically did part of it by saying, hey, we're just going to have Kato lose and lose really fucking hard to the Necrons, and then we're going to have him live the entirety of whatchamacallit, of Event Horizon for a few years. Put Angel Exterminatus on your list. That's great to learn more about Perturabo. Give me 1 second. Do I already have it on here? Because I have everything Horus Heresy in here. Ooh, it's a Graham McNeil one, too. Yeah, it's already in my wish list. So yeah, like I literally have everything Horus Heresy on there. I will probably, if I can get every audiobook of the Horus Heresy at some point, I will. Yeah, Graham is great. I like him. I like Nick Kine. Who else is there? Who was it that wrote the Carcharodons books? That dude's really good too. Do you get your Warhammer reads from Audible? I mean, that's where I get a good chunk of it. I wouldn't mind actually owning the physical books. The thing is, I don't really have like a good spot to read in my apartment. Not really. It's kind of why, like, once I get all my financial shit cleared up, I want to finally sit down and buy a house. So that way I'll just have like a reading spot. Robbie McNiven, that's it. The funny thing is about my audiobooks that I own, half of them are like Warhammer fiction, the other half is like all philosophy. You know? Like, it's like, I have in here, so it goes like Dark Imperium, Fireborn, Nightbringer, Warriors of Ultramar, Outer Dark, Red Tithe, and then you've got Psychology of the Unconscious, a study of the transformations and symbolisms of the libido. I have that in here. I have the full works of Edgar Allan Poe. I have the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. I have The Problem of Pain by C.S. Lewis. I have The Best of Cordwainer Smith. Somebody bought me that one in The Game of Rat and Dragon. What else is there? I have Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton, Heretics by G.K. Chesterton, Modern Man's Search of His Soul by Carl Gustav Jung, other stuff by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, two treatises of government by John Locke, The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli, The Republic by Plato, like when I was working security, I used to listen to them while I was on patrol. I just listen to audiobooks. That's how I know as much philosophy stuff as I do. Is like college classes, and I still listen to books about them or read books about them whenever I get the chance. But yeah, I don't have a good reading spot in my apartment. This chair I have isn't a bad reading chair. The problem that I have with it is I want to put my feet up, and I don't really have a spot for it. Not really. Well, I could try over here. This could work. Maybe. Possibly. We'll have to see what happens. There's a little spot I can put my feet up on underneath my desk. But yeah, that's part of the reason why like it's not easy for me to like read like just novels like I used to, because I used to read novels all the time. But oh, goodness. Talk about a warrior in a garden or a warrior in a cramped space. I kind of feel like that sometimes. Oh, man. I can't wait until my back is done healing, though. I really just want to clean my living room. There's a bunch of work I want to get done in there, but I just haven't been able to do. Oop, hold on a second. I'm getting a notification on my phone. Oh. And Amazon is trying to get me to buy a watch. Everybody's like really getting into watches these days. Like, I was talking to somebody from Xfinity to get an adjustment on my bill recently, and they were trying to sell me on a fucking smartwatch. I'm like, the fuck do I need a watch for? Like, the only time I've ever like worn like a watch or tried to have a nice watch is when I worked at a hotel and I was like, I was wearing a suit all the time, and just a watch looks good with a suit. You know? I think Flash gets a supporting Games Workshop thanks to his like, parody of 40K Space King. I don't know because I haven't watched it and I don't really care about it. So, can't really speak to that. Speaking of Lovecraft, if you get a chance, check out The Laundry Files by Charles Stross. It's essentially the Lovecraft mixed with James Bond. That's interesting. Amazon keeps trying to get me to buy car testing computer tools on a mechanic in any form. That is weird. Because like for me, it usually recommends like stuff that I want. You know, usually clothing. I've noticed like these shirts I've been wearing. This is what's kind of weird about me. I am at that point in my life where I wear two things. I wear a plain t-shirt or I wear a band shirt. One or the other. So I just bought a pack of 5 black shirts. That's it. You know? Because it's just comfortable. Just throw on a t-shirt and go, you know? And it looks good on me. What else is there to say, you know? Know any good horror novels? Just anything Lovecraft. My favorite Lovecraft anything is probably At the Mountains of Madness. That one I think is his best work. Though The Shadow over Innsmouth is really good too. Call of Cthulhu can be appropriately creepy. Those would be my recommendations. Though the one that I apparently need to read that I haven't read yet is The Color Out of Space. Everyone tells me that's the most underrated Lovecraft story. Either that or The Whisperer in the Dark. Which I think those are the two that I still haven't read. The other thing, like, I mentioned it earlier, the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. My favorite story of that being the Cask of Amontillado. Because he has such a chilling ending. Lovecraft books are always written from a journalist perspective. You're not even sure if they saw what they saw. Yeah, it's completely from first person in a journal style. That was actually my inspiration for the novella I wrote. That's all written in first person. There's something about that style that I really like. Just you get the innermost thoughts. Um, have a look here. Goodness. So what you get from reading A Song of Ice and Fire as well, which I have never read. Mostly because I don't think the series is ever going to be done, so I didn't figure I should get invested in it. Have a good night, Serena. Good night, Leo. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and... Lolly just put up the stream. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys over to him. Because I'm going to get a little food. I'm starving. Even though I just ate an orange. So I'm going to send you guys over to him. Go say hi in the chat. Tell him I sent you. And I will be back on Saturday. And then next week there will not be any streams. Because I will be gone for the holiday. But we'll be back the week after. Which will be lots of fun, to say the least. So, everybody have yourselves a great rest of your evening. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for those of you who are generous with super chats. It's also always appreciated. Hopefully everybody has a great rest of your week. Great rest of your week until the weekend. Then I'll see you then. Have a good night. Yeah.